Welcome to the Folk School on Willow Creek, featuring University Distinguished Professor Tom Ezern, singing and telling stories from the Salon on Willow Creek.
I need a bed for the night, boys, and my horses need hay. I've been riding that grub line on the hot-dish highway. Atchison Daily Free Press, 8th of September, 1865. One of the Overland boys hands us the following, with the request that we publish it. It is written in a style supposed to be peculiar to poets of the Overland. Come, all you young drivers, bound on the Overland. I'll tell you of the trials you over here must stand. Born from your home and friends so true on a bleak and barren plain, where the Indian arrow leaves you to ne'er return again. I left my friends home so true, with many a parting tear. My mother's voice did tremble, saying, "Child, oh child, I fear. May God protect and guide you and leave you here alone, and bring the lonely wanderer back to his native home." Now a young maid, both young and lovely, drew closely by my side. 'Twas there she promised faithfully that she would be my bride. I kissed the flowing tear away from off her dark blue eye. My heart is true as yet to her, my love can never die. Now I've seen the fruits of roaming, I know the trials full well. I've crossed the Rocky Mountains, where many a brave heart fell. I've seen a foreign country and the Indians' cruel wilds, but I'll never forget the home I left, nor my true love's sweetest smiles. Now come all of you young drivers, bound on the overland. To all of you my friends, I give the parting hand. I'll leave this wild and broken west, these bleak and stormy plains, and from the arms of the girl I love, I will never rove again. Come all you jolly farmers, won't you listen to my song? Sit down while contented, I'll not detain you long. Likewise you lovely ladies who wish to ride the breeze, just call upon John Landgraf, I'm sure that he will please. His saddles are the cheapest that's to be had in town. For neatness and for comfort their quality can be found. As to the other fixings, they're really hard to beat. For strength and durability, none with them can compete. They're of the best materials that the country can afford, are made by as good a workman as e'er stood at a board. His shop is on Commercial Street, right next door to John Bird's tin store, and in the town of Atchison, so I will say no more. John Landgraf, saddle and harness maker, September 1866. What's going on here? We got two ballads an awful lot alike. Well, as the song indicated, number one, Overland Drivers, from 1865, comes from the Missouri River town of Atchison, which was the jumping off point for the Leavenworth and Pikes Peak Express, which was born under Russell, Majors, and Wardell in May of 1860, then bought out in 1862 by the stagecoach entrepreneur Ben Holliday, one of the great figures in the transportation history of the American West, and he ran coaches there from the Missouri River out to the Pikes Peak gold diggings in the nascent cities of Denver and surrounding towns, and on west to Salt Lake City for a few years there. And had quite a corps then of drivers. Now, and so here we have it, right from the horse's mouth, a ballad by one of Ben Holliday's drivers, handed over to the editor of the Atchison Daily Free Press, fresh off of the plains. Well, then, John Landgraf, saddle and harness maker, no doubt intimately acquainted with the drivers of Holliday's stage line, commenced advertising every week. His ballad, A Song for the Million, would appear in the Atchison paper, and then in other towns where he moved on to open a shop a little bit later. Always to the same tune as Overland Drivers, the same stanza structure, and the same "Come all ye" opening. Come all you young drivers, come all you jolly farmers. Clearly, John Landgraf learned the ballad from the Overland stage drivers, and he made it into his advertising jingle. I'm willing to guess that he sang it when there were visitors to his harness making and saddle making shop. Well, this then turned out to be kind of the tip of the iceberg. All right, as you know, I do a lot of work with the digital source material, and I realized "Come all ye young" is a search string for ballads. Come all ye young ladies, come all ye young drivers, and also come all ye young cowboys. As a matter of fact, along here in later years, several ballads turn up. Here's one dating from early in the 20th century, but it's a ripping good ballad. It's, like this many stanzas. And I've got three printed pages of stanzas. It's not quite as long as the old Chisholm Trail, but it's similar. Come all you jolly cowboys that live in the Lone Star State, I have a little story to you I will relay. Then he goes on to talk about the rough horses that he rode on a cattle drive. And then jolly cowboys, come all you jolly cowboys, bound on the I can't read the rest of that, rough newspaper copy. But it's another cowboy on a trail drive. Come all you jolly cowboys, come all you jolly. And that will turn you up all kinds of weird and wonderful ballads from the 19th century, which goes to show that these are all kin. As a matter of fact, I realized those are meant to be sung to the same tune as The Range of the Buffalo, John Lomax's favorite ballad. Yeah, there are families and kinships out there among these songs all over the plains. What are we going to do next, Dr. K?
Don't you want to talk about what's happening at NDSU Press?
If you insist. You got any new books out?
Well, last week we talked about radium, and I'm going to put in a link in the chat here pretty soon to an intellectual and really interesting interview on the radio, on public radio, with John Anger and his book Radium. Talks about being a journalist in New York and Minnesota, and he talks about some physical disabilities he needed to overcome in his work. So it's just really a great interview.
What a thoughtful lad he is, huh?
Yeah, I think it's about 13 or 14 minutes. It's not real long, so I hope everyone will take a listen and see what
Did you put the link in there, did you?
I will. I will. And then what you're holding in your hands right now, I'm really proud of this. Even though it was the hardest, longest book to put through, it came in 23 days after what was supposed to be our official release date. And I won't go into all the details of what happened, but this is our first book in the Little Book About North Dakota series. So we will be publishing hopefully 3 to 4 books once we get rolling a year. This first one is a collection of poetry that will be of most interest to birders who are especially familiar with Robert Silliman and the Silliman family and all they did with ornithology.
And birders are probably familiar with the series editor also.
That's right. Our series editor is Mike Jacobs, who was the longtime editor of Grand Forks Herald. He still contributes to the Herald, but he is retired. In a lot of his contributions to the paper, he sends an illustrated bird image, and we were able to use those throughout this little book of poetry based on Robert Silliman's tracking across the fields and counting and gathering birds in 1909. So pieces of the book are from Silliman's journal, his field notes, and then the poetry is from his granddaughter who is responding to those field notes.
So it's linking the 19th and the 21st centuries.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, there's Angie's favorite bird, the marsh wren. She loves to watch those when we're sitting in the duck blind. They come twittering around.
Well, this is our debut volume for Little Book About North Dakota.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got it's kind of a tricky program this evening. Maybe we've done the easy part already, but we're going to put a song into the song bag tonight. And I thought it was going to be a simple job, but then it turned out the story of this particular ballad, the Dewey Case, it's called, got a little complex. It's got layers to it. And I was trying to write them up as best I could for, the background notes on the song. Then Dr. K got it in hand a little while ago. I think her copy looks a fair bit different than mine does here by now. So I believe he's done some editing on it. And no doubt improvement. But we're about to tell you, well, okay, there's this song that was commonly called the Dewey-Berry feud. And I used to love to sing this song with old Bill Cook from Kansas State University. And he's the one who told me what tune to sing it to. He said, sing it to I'll Be All Smiles Tonight, a popular song that I know is current in the late 19th century. And this song is from the very early 20th century, the Dewey Case. It's a song that comes from the environment of range wars on the Great Plains, late 19th century and on into the early 20th century. You read about the famous ones, the Lincoln County War, the what's the one in Wyoming, the Johnson County War. That's only the beginning of the story. There are a lot of local conflicts that either pitted cattlemen versus homesteaders, or for a while there, cattlemen versus shepherds. Terrific amount of violence on the frontier, but in fact, that was only a minority of the action. Most of the time, these things settled out by legal action. Herd laws, fence laws, barbed wire, and that sort of thing. Settling the partition of the land and the future of the land among cattle people and field agriculture. All right, so I got it written up for the song bag. And I'm going to bring Dr. Kelly in to give us a little provenance where the heck this ballad, the Dewey Case, came from.
Happy to do so. The author of the Dewey Case, later known as the Dewey-Berry feud, was John Henry Kirshner of Norton County, Kansas. Kansas born and not quite 30 years old at the time he wrote the ballad, Kirshner was an agricultural entrepreneur who, with partners, devised and sold farm implement attachments. Later, he became a tractor salesman for various firms and was active in the organization of the Kansas Brotherhood of Threshermen. He was not a resident of the locality where the dispute between the Deweys and the Berries occurred, but took a side in it, speaking out for the Berries as farmers and as the aggrieved parties in the matter. The text of the ballad first appeared over Kirshner's signature in the Lenora News of Norton County, Kansas, 31 March 1904. The Ballad was noticed in other newspapers around the state, parcel to the general popular uproar over the Dewey-Berry conflict and trials. The song was revived in subsequent years to serve political ends. A progressive admirer of Theodore Roosevelt, one R.O. Tate, published a text with commentary in the fall of 1906 in the Atwood Square Deal, noting, as he did, "Don't pay for a Dewey man." Tate undoubtedly was aware of recent actions by Roosevelt to compel big cattlemen illegally enclosing the public domain to take down their fences and give access to homesteaders. Likely to Tate's chagrin, the compilers of the Socialist column for the 5 October 1906 issue of the Goodland Republic republished Tate's contribution as proof that, quote, "the present system violates law to clear the rich. Socialism will punish the Deweys or any other violators of law," end quote. Finally, the Ballad circulated also in conjunction with a magic lantern show of photographic images depicting a reenactment of the Dewey-Berry fight. The show played to public audiences across the region, the song being sung as the images were shown.
Okay, we've got quite a bit about this ballad. There's a lot of story to tell, so give us some circumstances.
Seems like there could be a whole chapter about this someday.
It might.
The 1903 conflict that subsequently became known historically as the Dewey-Berry feud was an episode in the conflict between open-range ranchers and homesteading farmers that took place all over the Great Plains during the settlement era. Usually, the pastoralist versus agriculturalist rivalry as to the future of the country was settled by legal means involving herd laws and barbed wire. Sometimes it erupted into violence, as in Jack Schaefer's classic Western novel Shane, or in the historic instance of Cheyenne County, Kansas. There, the provocateur was the big-time gentleman rancher Chauncey Dewey. From the point of view of farmers in western Kansas, there was a lot about Chauncey Dewey to hate, things that went beyond his dandified ways and arrogant attitude. His father, C.P. Dewey, had become rich by buying burnt-out properties following the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, then reselling them profitably as the city rebuilt. C.P. invested his gains in western cattle, acquired land interests in Kansas, and sent his son, Chauncey, to take charge of his western enterprises. The Deweys' interests were centered in the Flint Hills of Geary County, lands that in future would become the Flint Hills Nature Conservancy, and the high plains of Rawlins County, adjacent to Cheyenne. But the Deweys' acquisitive aspirations seemed to have no bounds. In western Kansas, Chauncey Dewey was known not only for living a high life, but also running farmers out of business in order to acquire their land. The most concrete leverage he brought to bear was to allow his cattle to graze freely and destroy farmers' crops, escaping payment of animal liability damages by hiring aggressive attorneys, and to enclose illegally federal public lands, thereby depriving farmers of use and access. Provocatively, when a sheriff's sale dispersed the assets of the Cheyenne County farming family headed by the old man Daniel Berry, Chauncey Dewey got sheriff's office protection for his men to go over and buy the Berries' wooden water tank, a bit of spite work for sure. When Dewey and a gang of cowboys arrived, well armed, the next day, 3 June 1903, to haul off the tank, shooting broke out. In the melee, neither Dewey nor any of his men were injured, but the Berries took heavy casualties. Daniel Berry and 2 sons, Alpheus and Burchard, died, and a relative, Ron Berry, suffered a disfiguring gunshot wound to the face. Chauncey Dewey and 2 of his men were charged with first-degree murder. Lynch mobs organized. National Guardsmen were called out to keep order, but when the trial and appeal were done, all defendants were acquitted. The whole episode incited popular outrage against the Deweys and, of course, inspired a ballad.
Which we're about to present. We'll give some warning that it appears that Bess, our neighborhood turkey, has appeared at the window, and we have some canine alarms sounding here.
I think Bess departed.
That's good. All right. Way out on the plains of Kansas, where the wind blows hard and hot.
The opening lines, way out on the plains of Kansas, where the wind blows hard and hot, not only signify the hard narrative to come, but also recognize the physical setting of the action in Cheyenne County, far northwest Kansas, way out, even from the northern county perspective of the ballad's author in the north-central part of the state.
Way out on the plains of Kansas, where the wind blows hard and hot, stands a little old sod building where the Berry boys were shot. Two men in the prime of manhood, a man with silvery hair.
The silver-haired father was Daniel Berry, born, according to the U.S. Census, in Canada in 1839.
Two men in the prime of manhood, the father with silvery hair, were cruelly murdered that bright day by the outlaw millionaire.
It is perhaps appropriate that the balladist misspells millionaire, as he presumes to speak for dirt farmers and excoriate Chauncey Dewey as what Theodore Roosevelt might have called a malefactor of great wealth.
Man by age enfeebled, with weak and trembling hands, shot down like a beef for slaughter by Dewey's cowardly band. Oh, grand and free America, in this land where live the brave, is this the glorious country our fathers fought to save? There is no terror for the murderous, blood-stained hand. Are there no courts of justice in this glorious Christian land? Must wives be changed to widows in the space of a fleeting breath? Must children be made orphans and men be shot to death?
Alpheus Berry and his wife Viola had divorced in 1900. Had one son, Arthur, born in 1901. The residence and disposition of Viola and baby Arthur in 1903 are unknown. Burchard Berry was unmarried. Daniel Berry's wife, Harriet, was widowed. So it appears there was only one widow resulting from the shootout and only one orphan child. Data gleaned from genealogies deposited in Ancestry.com.
It's hard to think 'tis true in this land we love so well. It's hard for us to believe that men will their honor sell. But I should think that the murderers, although they may be free, those quiet, deathly faces and troubled dreams would see. Now that aged and that furrowed brow, that blood-stained hair so gray, I'd think that Chauncey Dewey would see that night and day. The jury has cleared the savages, the court its verdict has given.
Charges against the Deweys for the Berry murders were filed in Cheyenne County, but the trial of the new was shifted to Norton County, perhaps the provocation to balladry on the part of John Henry Kirshner. State Attorney General Charles C. Coleman led a distinguished prosecution team that did battle with an equally potent defense team. The testimony was conflicting. The jury did not convict. Public opinion was unconvinced justice had been done. For a sketch of the legal proceedings, see Lawton Noose, The Courts of Heaven, 68 Kansas Bar Association, 1999. Note, the legal article title quotes the final line of the ballad.
The jury has cleared these savages, the court its verdict is given, but to find when done with the wife that they can't buy the court of heaven. It's a ripper, isn't it? Oh my. The Dewey Case. That turned one, okay. See, that's one, now and then I hold up the pile. That's the pile of documentation, just scratching the surface on what we know about this whole controversy. Oh, have any interesting guests or obnoxious ones on the timeline tonight?
We don't have any obnoxious ones.
Whoops. Uh-oh. Bess is back. Okay.
You have some admirers of your lilacs.
The lilacs are starting to fade, but they still smell pretty sweet.
Don't they, though? And we'll soon be transitioning to another aromatic flower.
Well, the peonies are coming on.
Yeah.
Maybe next week.
That'd be nice. Good timing.
Now, von Rothenberger's on there. He knows the territory of that Dewey-Berry controversy pretty well, I suspect.
Yeah.
And earlier on there, I believe Tom Brousseau had checked in.
Yeah.
Who, you know, in his last Great American Folk Show.
Number 37.
His number 37 referred to me as a song catcher, which Tom I took as a compliment. And it happens that I have been running across a song catcher this week. That, of course, the late great John Lummox, the sort of the daddy of them all as far as collecting Great Plains ballads, cowboy songs and other frontier ballads, and that sort of stuff. What I've been running across as I do my research on different songs and as they appeared in various points of the American West is I keep crossing paths with Lummox. Turns out that about in 1909, when he was at Texas A&M College Station, he had a Sheldon Fellowship to collect ballads. And he did travel quite a bit, and he had an Edison recording machine. But he also sent a circular letter around to newspapers all over the American West saying, hey, do you have any old songs that you can send me? And they did. And then sometimes, you see, they would print them in the paper. I've got a nice little nest of them that were published in the Culbertson Searchlight, Colbert, Montana, in which they explain we're replying to Professor Lummox here. It seems like everywhere I go, he's been there ahead of me. Now, one of the songs that he picked up, another latter-day song catcher is a fellow named John White. Right now, there's a ballad in Cowboy Songs and Other Frontier Ballads. It's the only one in the whole book that has an author given. Lummox was kind of a believer that ballads were an anonymous thing, because he didn't have digital data banks to get for recourse. And so he had this traditional idea, you can never trace where these ballads come from. Well, it turns out that we can quite a bit. Now, a generation ago, there was still a fellow trying to track down these songs, but he did it without the benefit of the sort of digital source material that I make use of every day in tracking these. And it's a fellow named John White. He's published a book called Get Along Little Doggies, Songs and Songmakers of the American West. It's a ripping good book. He does a lot of what we do here with Folk School. He tracks down the origins of songs. often ones that he's got pinned down as well as could be in 1975. We're able to take back another generation or something like that with the sources now available. Well, this one song, Night Herding Song it's called, I think it's the last one in Lomax's first ballad book, has the author attribution to a fellow named Harry Stevens. Turned out Harry Stevens was a student of Lomax in the early 20th century at Texas A&M. He had been a working cowboy as a young fellow. He'd gone to college for a while, and then he quit college and he said, "Goodbye, Professor Lomax. I just can't sit here anymore. I've got to be out. I've got to be out in the outdoors again." But then, after a little while, here came in the mail a cut-out piece of a cardboard shoebox with 4 stanzas on it. And those stanzas were the song, Night Herding Song. And Harry Stevens had sent them. And so Lomax put them in his book. He didn't have a tune for it. About 40 years later, the two of them got together again, and Harry Stevens sang the tune for Professor Lomax to Night Herding Song. I've been singing it for years with basically the wrong tune. It's one that's set for somebody who was using it as an art song, really. But Harry Stevens did have a tune that he made up to sing it to, and he sang it for Lomax. And then White picked it up and put it into his book. I just got hold of this here this week. And so I've been trying to learn to sing this song. It's not easy, folks, but I'm going to give it a shot. This is Night Herding Song. Okay. Oh, slow up, doggies, quit your roving around. You've wandered and tramped all over the ground. Oh, graze long doggies and feed kind of slow, and on forever beyond the goal. Oh, move slow, doggies, move slow. Hi-oh, hi-oh. I have circle herded, trail herded, night herded too. But to keep you together, that's what I can't do. My pony's like weary and I'm awful tired. But if I let you go, I'm sure to get fired. Bunch up, little doggies, bunch up. Oh, move slow, doggies, move slow. Hi-oh, hi-oh. Oh, say, little doggies, when you're going to lay down and quit this forever milling around. My arms are tired, my seat is sore. Oh, lay, little doggies, like you laid down before. Oh, lay, little doggies, lay down, lay down. Oh, lay still, little doggies, now that you have laid down. stretch away out on the big open ground. Snore loud, little doggies, and drown the wild sound that will all go away when the day rolls around. Lay still, little doggies, lay still, hi-yo. You know, in that time, the early 20th century, there was a little bit of a civil war going on among ballad collectors. There were the people who were text-oriented, and they were coming out of literature and philology, those fields. And then there were the musicians, who were the musicologists who were getting into this. And they were concerned about melodies and every little bit of, every little inflection and the non-standard scales employed by some singers. And so if you have somebody like Lomax, who's a literary guy, setting these down, you get kind of an approximation of some of the falsetto work and inflections that go on in these. But for this one, the Library of Congress has a recording that Lomax made of Stevens singing the song. Can I quite replicate his touch on it? Well, no, but I gave it my best shot. Anything else we should be discussing yet, Dr. K?
Well, von Rothenberger did indeed have some extension to the story.
Did he?
Yeah.
What's he got to say about the Deweys and the Berries?
Osborne County's National Guard troop was sent to Cheyenne County to quell the riot.
Yeah.
As they were told. They were selected by the governor because he felt he could not trust anyone in the far northwestern counties to be neutral. The Osborne boys' major contribution to the Dewey-Berry feud was to surround and escort the accused to trial to prevent any potential lynching.
Because there could have been.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
The citizens were ready.
Yeah. I'm not entirely convinced of the truthfulness of either side in the testimony on that matter. The fact that it's called the Dewey-Berry feud, you know, like Hatfields and McCoy. I mean, that's not a term you use in the West, that there was a feud. You know, that doesn't fit. No, that doesn't fit the range war environment. This wasn't a feud. This was a range war. This was a struggle over land. It wasn't like just old enmities between two families, bad blood. But those berries, I'm a little worried. I'm not sure that if I'm going to stick up for the farmers, I think I'm going to look for a better example of upstanding farmers to stand. Well, excuse me.
Really?
Yeah, they're not here to hold up their end of the tail. So.
But I do think of a feud as being more long, generational over time, not just one incident.
And this was just an outburst.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next week, I've given a title to the episode. I haven't told you yet. It's called Old as Dirt.
Yeah? Who's having a birthday?
It's autobiographical. Old as Dirt, Ballads of Farming on the Great Plains.
Okay.
How's that? Which reminds me, speaking of farmers, we haven't really gotten a report back on how Elder Brother Stan did with the Memorial Day address last week. But if Dan Silkin's on the line, he could give us a report there. He's often...
He was present?
I do have a calendar ballad. I'm reprising one from a year ago because it suits the season. The creek's finally gone down here. We've got the property back. And the prairie gardens mostly put in here just in the past several days. And that led me back to this ballad from about a year ago. And we're going to go from this into kind of a close-up then. Oh, the gophers, they sure make short work of the flowers we planted to beautify our little home. The cabbage moths steal our kohlrabi, and cabbage and pigweeds they carpet each square inch of lawn. Now there's nothing that kills your best hopes for the garden like a frost coming down on Memorial Day, unless it's a drought of biblical proportions, just like the 30s the old timers say. Now we met our June berries to stop the red robins and waxwings and threshers from picking them bare. We haven't found anything short of explosive to stop the hungry whitetails from getting in there. But let us praise God from whom all blessings flow. The board and the pantry are full as you please. Remember, when rabbits devour all your seedlings, He's sending you protein to go with your breeze. And then come next winter, we will not go hungry. With good and abundance our fare is awash. We've pickled cucumbers and red beets and peppers. The crawl space is stuffed full of root crops and squash. Yes, let us praise God from whom all blessings flow, and praise Him above all ye heavenly hosts. It's doubtful that we'll ever run out of pickles. We'll be eating green beans till we give up the ghost. Where the deer and the antelope play, slow doggies, quit your roaming around. You have wandered and trampled all over the ground. Oh, great long doggies, and feet kinda slow. Don't forever be on the go. Where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all the day. No, the skies are not cloudy all day. Hope your garden's great this year, Dr. K.
We now conclude today's edition of the Folk School on Willow Creek. We invite you to join us again next Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time for more songs and stories.